Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Leading Edge Cricket Podcast. It's a podcast in celebration mood. It's 70 years, it feels. Not since the Queen took over, but since England won a Test match. We are over 250 days since we've had this conversation where we can sit back, we can put our feet up, we can get the brew out, and we can say England have won a game of Test cricket, Rich.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it, Rob? Nice to be back as well. We're back. English Test cricket's back and England winning Test cricket's back. It all feels good, doesn't it? How are you feeling, Rob? Anyway, COVID positive Rob over there. How you doing, mate?
We had a saying last year on the podcast, test negative, stay positive. I'm now testing positive, staying negative. So I've done a full 360.
But at least you've had some cricket.
Yeah, exactly. I've had cricket in the evenings down here in New Zealand to go along COVID, and the Vitality Blast. I watched heaps of that while I've been laid up in bed. So we're feeling pretty good about life, Rich. It's great to see. I don't know. Can you look at it and go, "Oh, red ball reset"? You know, we're going in a brand new direction here. That's why we won this game of cricket. Can you do that?
You know what? We're not at that phase, are we? It's really nice to see a positive start. A team a few years ago would have, well, even a year ago, even 6 months ago, would have probably struggled to chase down that score in the end, wouldn't it? Of what was it, 277 total, which England did chase down this morning within the first hour. Winning by 5 wickets. Joe Root, obviously, the star of the show and man of the match, rightly so. And it was brilliant that he mentioned that they got it in just in time. I think it was 7 balls or less than 7 balls before the fans would have not got a refund. So because they did it within the first hour, first 15 overs, the fans all got a refund. Man of the people, Joe Root. What a fantastic way to round things off this morning, wasn't it?
It is. So we're going to have a bit of a wander down memory lane here. We're going to walk through the innings. All the big things that's gone on, who's impressed us, who's not impressed us during the last few days. And because it's been, I don't know, I can't remember many Test matches like this, Rich, with just wickets flailing everywhere, injuries flailing everywhere, just mind dumps at moments flailing everywhere, Colin de Grandhomme. It's just been a ridiculous game of cricket that's provided good entertainment.
And that's it. It doesn't have to be a 500 plays 500, does it? We don't need to see huge centuries all over the place. We need to see competitive cricket that offers some with the ball, it offers some with the bat. And we've seen a bit of everything in this Test match, haven't we? So I enjoyed most of it. Like you said, there are big questions. England will not change anything. The squad was picked for the first 2 tests. Let's get that out of the way. Nothing is changing in this second test as far as England are concerned. New Zealand, there will be an enforced injury swap over, and the de Grandhomme didn't make it through this game. Plantar fascia, or however you say it, that's the injury he's going to be missing, isn't he? So it does give a good opportunity for Henry Nicholls to come in, an easy option, considering Daryl Mitchell, Centurion, that we'll get to in a minute, wouldn't have played. And England, obviously, big doubts over Jack Leach. So should we run through this then, Rob? Then we'll pick out bits and bobs as we go. But obviously, as we've said, England have got the win, 5-wicket win. It didn't feel in doubt, did it? It didn't feel in doubt. And in the first morning, Rob, it certainly didn't feel in doubt, in my opinion. 132 all out New Zealand were in the end. But that doesn't tell the story, does it? It was 1 for 1. It was 2 for 2. It was 3 for 7, 4 for 12, 5 for 27, 6 for 36, 7 for 45, 8 for 86. And then the tail enders just put a little bit of a shade of respectability on it, didn't they? But it was all England on that first morning, and it was a wonderful toss to lose. And get a bowl. The old boys, Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad, they look useful. I wonder where they've come from. I wonder if they'd have done a job in the West Indies, we all ask. They look great, didn't they? Jimmy Anderson in particular, look, 2 for 4, 2 runs for 4 wickets in his first spell, 6-over spell. Matty Potts came in. We've been talking about him. Yes, I have missed him occasionally on the cricket England watch tweets on Twitter. But that was accidental. He was always in our minds. But he started the summer sensationally, and he took it straight into this Test match, impressing straight away. His 5th ball, getting Kane Williamson, and he got him in the second innings as well. Spoiler alert. But it was just a stunning first innings, wasn't it, for England? Broad bowled well, but he went, he was about 3.5 and over. But in the end, Anderson went for 4 and over. Ben Stokes got himself 1 wicket as well. But if it wasn't for Mr. Large Man, Colin de Grandhomme, and Tim Southey down at the bottom and a little bit of Trent Boult, this would have been less than 100 all out, and England would have been cruising. But at this phase in this game, it was such an impressive start for England that you only saw 1 winner after this one. Obviously, second innings we'll get into in a moment. But at that point, how impressed were you, Rob?
Oh, massively, mate. I expected England to win this Test match, which sounds bonkers, but anyone that's following us on Twitter at Leading Edge Pod will see on the June the 2nd, before the start of play, I put England will beat New Zealand. I also, the tweet just before it, sent one out with a picture of the slip catching percentages from 2019, saying New Zealand have got the best slip catching cordon in the world, and England are pretty much the worst alongside Bangladesh. England's slip catching here was absolutely outstanding, and I quite like the cordon, having Golden Gloves Johnny Bairstow at third slips, shelling peas and catching anything that comes his way. I thought was particularly impressive. But we bowled really well. New Zealand batting lineup. We didn't get to do the preview, but one of my take on it was the batting lineup is frail and has got big holes in it, like England. So I wasn't surprised that England, when they got into him, really got stuck into him and rolled them. It was kind of on the cards. But I think as English fans, we can all sit there and look back and go, how didn't Jimmy get a game? How didn't Broady get a game? Because those two were absolutely brilliant with the new ball. And then Potts came in and did... I don't know what to say. It's Matthew Potts County Championship form carried over into the international arena. But
I feel it's too formal. It's got to be Matty, surely. I don't like these formalities of Matthew Potts.
Yeah, we need Crick Info. If you can update your scorecards to have him as Matty, that would be great. And I think the other thing that really needs playing up here was we've been negative of Joe Root's captaincy and his reluctance to attack for... feels a couple of years, especially the last couple of years of bubble life under Silverwood. We've really had to rein it in and defensive fields. Ben Stokes, and I picked it up really early. We got a wicket or two, and then we had 6 slips. We were all about taking wickets while the ball was moving, and I'm all in on that. I'm okay them being 100 for 3 at lunch. The fact is, you've got 3 wickets. It's a bit like the power play in T20. You want to take wickets in that period. If you take 2 or 3 wickets, you're probably going to win the game. And same with Test cricket. You want to take wickets in that first session. I was all in on England's positive attitude. Also chasing balls down to the boundary, Rich. All in on everyone giving everything, chasing balls to the boundary.
Yeah. Stuart Broad especially, wasn't he? He was sensational. He did that, putting that effort in and really showing that he wants to be out there. I've got to just jump on what you said. Johnny Bairstow, his slip catching was sensational. The first catch in particular, I think it was. Unbelievable. Or any argument, any conversation, we're going to get to the 4th innings and how well I think Ben Stokes did. Spoiler, really well. I'm hearing people already talking about give Bairstow the gloves. Stokes away from it for 1 minute. Johnny Bairstow caught 3, did he? 3 in slips. 3. We need him in slips. Forget about wicket keeping for a second. This is unbelievable. Rob showed those stats of how bad we've been. We've been one of the worst teams over the last few years for slip catching percentages. If we can get someone in slips that actually knows how to not put the ball on the ground, keep him in there for as long as we certainly can. So, I was just super impressed. Matty Potts, I thought, was exceptional. They were talking about it today, the commentators were, and they were talking about how, or was it Root, actually? Root was saying in the post-match interview, was talking about how he's a little bit front on. He's quite difficult to line up early on. So he's going to take wickets in his first overs. And that's what he did as well, wasn't it? And that's what we're going to keep seeing, I think. Root was talking about how much they were troubled in the nets from Potts. So, we didn't do the preview pod, so we couldn't really talk about it. But who would have been playing? You've got about 8 or 9 players injured. If Wood was available, if Wokes was available, if all these other people were available, Potts might not have even got near the squad. So it was really good to see him get in the squad, and it was even better to see him play, especially because how disappointed we both were, and I'm sure a lot of people were, that Harry Brook didn't get his opportunity because he's been flying so far this year. So it was a positive selection, wasn't it, really? And New Zealand, they were forced into playing Daryl Mitchell, weren't they, with no Nichols playing?
Yeah, that was a biggie for them, actually. And, we'll touch on Mitchell's 100. But in the preview pod, I was going to say, if Mitchell's batting at 5 and de Grandhomme at 6, you have got huge holes in that lineup. They are both, to me, ideally a 6 or 7. And Daryl Mitchell's just got this crazy ability to get the most out of his talent. We saw it in the T20 World Cup. And now you're seeing it in the Test arena. Just incredible. De Grandhomme's the better bowler between the two, but Mitchell definitely the better batter.
Yeah, but it's just quite interesting, isn't it? Without injuries, these players are getting opportunities, and we've not even spoke about the third person that got an opportunity because of injury, and that was Jack Leach chasing the ball down to the boundary, which you were intimating about a minute ago. We saw some players do it really well, and Jack Leach did it exceptionally well. Sprinted down there, head first, full-on commitment, over on his head, concussion. He's out of the game. Matt Parkinson's putting away, tidying up his barbecue from the night before. He's off to the Lake District for a few days. No, he's not anymore. He's driving down to London from Manchester. He's getting his first cap, isn't he? 704, I think it was, for Matty Potts. 705th test cap is the number for Matty Parkinson. And he got, I'm calling everyone Matty now. I love it. Everyone's Matty. And he's getting his game for England as well, isn't he? So we've got a lot of what we wanted to see in this test, but not necessarily with Jack Leach the way we wanted to see it. So wish him, obviously, speedy recovery. He was doing some jogs around the outfield towards the end of the test, so he's trying to work his way back through the concussion protocols that are in place. The squad is, as we said, for the second test. Parkinson will retain his place in that squad, but Jack Leach is a question mark. But anyway, that's where we were at the end of the first innings, Rob. At that point, we had to think that this is an exceptional start for England. No way in the world they can screw it up. And they're certainly not when they're putting 59 for none with Alex Lees and Zach Crawley in particular going absolutely brilliantly. Then we lose a wicket. Then we lose Zach Crawley at 59 for 1. And at that pace, even then we're thinking this is a really good start. Great opportunity for Ollie Pope coming in. Yeah. Big question marks over him as a number 3. Is he a 3? I don't think he is. You don't think he is. A lot of people don't think he is, but it's a great opportunity. And everything looked rosy at that point. But then the game changed.
It changed. It absolutely flipped on his head. England 8 for 5 from 28 balls to finish the day. 8 for 5. It's the numbers that just don't quite. I don't know. I can't quite get my head around how poor that collapse was, because there was moments in that innings where Crawley looked really good and was batting really well. His updated technique was playing pretty good, but old habits die hard, and he kind of rolled back 60 balls before this test match and started trying to get in there, bottom man, get in there, get across that ball. New Zealand bowled well. Very similar to England. They bowled good lines. It appears it was probably hard for that first 10 balls of people's innings and hard to line things up and get it going. And also they took every single opportunity that was given to them. You could question some of the shots that was maybe thrown in. Ben Stokes had a really rasping drive down the ground that he got out to. Johnny Bairstow got bowled again. Johnny Bairstow gets bowled. He found a way of getting bowled, chopping on. Ben Foakes nicking off. And I think Alex Lees' technique always needs more discussion. I do like.
We need a breakdown. We need a breakdown from you, Rob, at some point. We need a little TikTok breakdown.
So West Indies, he didn't play like this. County Championship, he played like this and scored 190, and comes back to Test cricket 25. Looks okay. Kevin Peterson wasn't very complimentary of his batting style and technique.
Don't care. Do you know what? I'm just going to quickly say this. No, some people might not have overly loved his technique. He was different, wasn't he, at the time? Just because he actually had some success, obviously. We look, it was great. But that wasn't a normal technique. Now, Alex Lees, though, without being negative or positive, it was just a strange setup. We don't see that sort of setup, especially with the right arm round the wicket to him as a left-hander. Batting well outside off stump, not even an off stump guard, it felt like at times. It felt like he was batting on 5th or 6th stump. It seems a strange technique. You've kind of looked into it a little bit more, and he has done that, hasn't he? And he's got a really good record in first-class cricket, county cricket, batting in that way round the wicket. I just don't see how it's going to be successful consistently. It's the same as when we spoke about Ollie Pope batting on off stump. How do you know what you're leaving? How do you know what you're supposed to be playing? He got, it was LB, wasn't it, in the end, which would have been clipping leg stump, but he's trying to play it down to fine leg in the first innings. It seemed a strange setup, and it's not. I don't think that many people would have expected to see a test match opener playing that way.
No, I can't say I've ever seen it myself until I saw him doing it in the county championship, mate.
Yeah.
But it's worked for him, and you know what I like about this. I might not like how it looks. I might think it's riddled with holes. But the fact is that he plays like this. He played like this last year, apparently. Went to the West Indies and played somehow different and had a different setup, and it didn't work. So he's gone back to, okay, this is what works for me. And I've a lot of time for that. He's right. He's like, okay, cards on the table. This is how I do it. It doesn't look great. I'm going to try it. And he's going to have another couple of test matches to really try it. And he did look really nice in that second innings, to be fair. He had a period where he was looking really fluent and looked a little bit more eager to score some runs.
Yeah, Stokes singled him out, isn't he, at the end? I mean, he was speaking about a few people, but he said about Lees, for the 20 he scored in the second innings, that looked as good as he has looked so far in Test cricket. So, we're not expecting Lees to be thrown out at the moment. We're not expecting Crawley to be thrown out. Crawley looked really fluent. And then it was just, it's like you said, the old issue came down, didn't it? It just felt like that bat came down on an angle for his dismissal in the first innings. And suddenly, he's gone again. It's cruel game, isn't it, Test cricket? Ollie Pope, what do you think of Ollie Pope? His first knock at number 3.
Not a lot, actually. Not a lot. I was really disappointed with the Test match for him. You just wanted to see something.
He will be as well.
See a start, like get to 20. Yeah. Show me your number 3. Get to 20. Make a little bit of an indent. Sure, you might get out of 20. That's okay. No one really scored any runs except a couple of people. But I just came away going, I've not seen anything here that makes me go number 3.
Yeah. Well, that's it, isn't it? And that's the problem. We've no doubt in our minds that he is absolutely exceptional in county cricket. But the problem is we've just not seen it in Test cricket. And that's our issue. And that's a lot of people's issue and concern with him, is that we haven't seen the player that we know he is. And I understand why they're trying to get him in the side, crowbarring him in, saying we're absolutely adamant, we're absolutely certain that this man is a Test cricketer, so we're going to give him every opportunity. And we think he's got the technique at number 3, even though he's never batted at number 3 in his first-class career. I understand why they've played him there, but he just hasn't shown anything yet in Test cricket to suggest that he has that X factor, that something. We hope he does at some point. We hope that it clicks. But I just feel it's a little bit unfair, let's say, on one or two others who are on the outside looking in, that Pope has got another opportunity at the moment, regardless of all those things we've just spoke about. I'm the same. It didn't really do anything that excited me or made me think, hang on a sec, there might be something here. But they're going to persevere with him. He will play at number 3 in the second Test. So he's got 2 more innings, I would suggest, that he needs to do something with.
What I would say is we've just played on a deck where 132 plays 141. Yeah. Only 2 guys got in for New Zealand, and pretty much only 2 guys got in for England in the second innings to have a good bat. Same as Matt Parkinson as a bowler, who we'll touch on. Can't judge him solely on one performance at Lord's, where a load of wickets have fallen. So I think get him to Trent Bridge, get him through the series, and see where you are at the end of the series.
Yeah.
It's a good way to go.
Apologies for Rob's coughing, by the way. He's not quick enough on that mute button.
No, the COVID's still kicking around on the lungs a little bit here. I am dropping in and out of mute, but I might miss the odd one. So England 1-4-1, Rich. It could have been better. At the end of day 1, it probably could have been worse as well. We could have had it could have been trailing. But it did set up what was a really interesting New Zealand innings.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's got to be said, hasn't it? Both bowling attacks look really impressive. Simple as that. As bad as the bowling attacks did look, both bowling attacks really, really did look as expected when you're looking at 132 plays, 141. So, we move the game on, don't we? England have a minor lead as we go into second innings for New Zealand. And it was a decent start for England again. Will Young's gone early again for New Zealand. That's a concern, I think, at the top of the order for New Zealand. Latham, he's hanging around, but Kane Williamson's gone again, hasn't he? Matty Potts gets the captain, the one of the best batsmen in the world. He's got him twice in this game. And England were looking really rosy. 35 on the board for 3 wickets, 56 for 4 when Devon Conway went. And then it was Daryl Mitchell and it was Tom Blundell who batted absolutely superbly. Daryl Mitchell got himself 108. Was that his second Test 100? I'll have to just check that in a moment. It's sitting in my memory that is his second Test 100. But I thought he played really well. And one of the things I absolutely loved, second 100 for Daryl Mitchell. At the end of the day, when he was being interviewed after his 100, he was talking about how he got the big applause coming off the field. And he's like, I got the big applause, which, I'm not a big fan of that. It was like he's such a humble fella that he didn't really like people giving him a standing ovation when he got out for 108. You did pretty well, Daryl. Enjoy it, pal. Enjoy it.
He did. Enjoyed the moment, mate. His old man's a bit of a rugby legend out here as well.
Oh, really?
Cool. There's some interesting tweets going on for anyone that's into the rugby. His dad won the Ranfurly Shield out here, met once, maybe twice, and there was conversations going on about who's got the greater achievement, winning the Ranfurly Shield or getting a century at Lord's. So it was just, I don't know. it defies. I almost look at it and go, if his technique is not pretty, like it's not stereotypical top 6 international cricketer, which is probably something why I look at him and go 6, 7. But he got the best out of it against a really good bowling attack on bowling friendly conditions generally. You can't really ask any more of someone. And the only thing I could come away with was, if he was English, he wouldn't have scored 100. And I couldn't get this out of my head. Like, we've got someone that plays like that, who played the match situation really, really well. He played the good balls and blocked them out and left them and did all these things, and then just worked it around and managed to get himself up to 40, 50 without really much fanfare, and then all the way to a century. So it's just an incredible knock. Him and Blundell, who again goes sneakily under the radar, constantly does well for New Zealand. He's not of the BJ Watling mould, who always came in and scored runs when New Zealand was in trouble, but this was a BJ Watling sort of innings from Tom Blundell, and kind of taking the next step to being, hey, this is our guy who's in that middle of the order, lower end of the order, will always get us out of a bit of a hole. And New Zealand are going to find themselves in hole with the batting lineup that just isn't performing. It's a shame we didn't do the preview pod because I had COVID, but I called out in that Will Young, great in county championship cricket, but I went back and watched him against South Africa in the summer, and off stump, there was some really hard hands going on, and he really struggled. So he's had a good start to Test career, but you can watch him and go, oh yeah, you might get found out a little bit in England against quality oppo. But I'm just happy for those guys. But I don't think you can talk through this New Zealand innings without going, the collapse happened again, and one bought 4 or 5, Rich, and it was one of the dropped players. It was Anderson in the first innings taking all the wickets, but it was Brody here on the start of day 3. Was it start of day 3 or end of day 3? One of the two.
It was
running through them.
Yeah, it was Saturday. I mean, I was at cricket, so I didn't get to see it live. But obviously, you're seeing the updates coming through, and it was basically 3 wickets in 3 balls, wasn't it? They got the who was the first wicket in this one? You've caught me here. You've caught me. Which one was the first one? But we get a wicket. We get a run out. We get another wicket. Brody gets 2, doesn't he? In 3 deliveries, and then there's a run out. There's a huge appeal for de Grandhomme, isn't he? He's wandering down the pitch doing God knows what, and he gets himself run out. I think Bairstow direct hit from slips. It just summed up that absolute brain fade of an over for New Zealand, which completely changed the complexion of the game. At the point of Mitchell and Blundell absolutely cruising, you're looking at this going, England have absolutely thrown this away. There is no way in the world New Zealand are not winning this Test match. That's the only result. It could be over today. You might not even see any cricket on Sunday. Obviously, things changed in that over, wasn't it? So if you remember it clearer than I do, Rob, please talk us through that over, because I was waiting. I think I'd just come back to Pavilion after being given out LBW for one that hit me outside the line of off stump. First ball, excuse me.
Yeah, I was tweeting about this. The first tweet said game on. The second tweet said game on, fire emoji. And then the third one, this is so game on. And then I put a pot out going, who's going to win, England or New Zealand? And England had pipped in front on it. It was just broad. He managed to, I think he got Daryl Mitchell to nick off. And then there was the Grandhomme one. Honestly, Stuart Broad would have reviewed this for LBW if he could, but it had already been given out. Now he had that look in his eye, like that needs to go on my stats. De Grandhomme, obviously injured by this point, but just had a moment where it's almost like he forgot the situation, and you can't just mentally leave the game and leave your body corpsing on the middle of the wicket. And he did. He was just kind of wandering around in the middle of the wicket, and young Johnny Bairstow, boom, down go the stumps, and he's ran out. And then first ball, I think it was Carl Jameson came out
Jameson,
up everywhere, and it was vintage Brody. And you just look at it. And you've got Anderson, who in the first innings took 4 for 8, and then you've got Anderson and Brody with 3 for 8. And we would not have won this Test match if Anderson didn't bowl like that on day 1 and Brody didn't do this spell. 100% we don't win this game.
It's what Broad does, and this is the thing. He's so undervalued. He's so underrated, in my opinion. I don't know what it is, but when we're looking at what your bowling attack is going to be, so many times people will be like, oh, I'll have him over Broad. This is what Broad gives you. He's that in a football sense, he's that match winner. He's going to he might not do a lot for an hour or so, but he's then just going to pop up with a moment of magic and score a goal. Or in this situation, obviously, take the wicket of Daryl Mitchell, the guy that was set on 108, take the wicket. He then causes the confusion when de Grandhomme comes in that results in the run out. He then follows up with an absolute beaut that jags back, hits off stump, cartwheels off stump, unplugs off stump. The camera's gone and everything to get Carl Jamieson. Broady's there, winding the crowd up, getting the Lords firing up. You know, they had to put down the little plastic glasses for the champagne, the little toffs up at Lords, didn't they? I still hate it. I still hate the corks on the outfield, Rob. Stop putting your corks on the outfield. So disrespectful. But Brody does that. He just fires the crowd up. He fires me up. And this is what happens. This is how you change the direction of a test match. You need players like this that can do it. And he showed again that he did it. And it's like you said, they then collapsed after this one, didn't they? Southey again hung around 21. He who believes that there's no fielders in the air, which is why he likes to go attacking. I like that. I really do like that. I'm going to take that on board. That's going to live with me. It's a man after my own heart now. But he hung around and just got a bit of respectability to 285, which set up that total of 277, which in a fourth innings is an epic chase. It feels like an epic chase as an England cricket fan as well. So even at that point, regardless of how well we finished that innings, it still feels, I don't want to say insurmountable, but it still feels a hell of a challenge. And I'm not sure I would have been feeling overly confident, but I was out in the field when we started our innings, so I didn't see how England got on until I'd finished playing yesterday. And it was a superb couple of session or so, wasn't it? You know, we've put ourselves in a position where we only needed 60 odd to win this morning with 5 wickets in hand. We'll come on to the bowlers, the tail in a moment. But when you see that, that's a stunning effort. From the top order.
Yeah, actually is. We've managed to turn it around quite nicely. What's your thoughts on Matt Parkinson's spell? 147 off 15.3. CricVids did a tweet. Matt Parkinson's average bowling speed is 73.65 kilometres per hour, making him the slowest bowler in the CricVids database. Minimum 50 balls, 2006 to present. Were you impressed? Do you want to see him play again? What are your thoughts?
It's Lords for a start, isn't it? I mean, the Sri Lanka, what am I talking about here? The Ajaz Patel, name slipped me for a moment, the New Zealand spinner, he didn't do much either, did he, in this game? Nah. You know, neither spinner did a lot. Jack Leach, he probably wouldn't have done much in this game. It was really good to see Matt Parkinson come in and get an opportunity. Got himself a wicket, so he's won, you know, he's up and running. Yes, he bowls slow, but he's had an immense amount of success in first-class cricket. He's got a really good economy rate. He's not a leg spin bowler that goes, you know, bowls 4 balls every over. That's not who he is. So yes, he's bowling slow, but he's been really successful. And we don't know if he's going to be successful in Test cricket yet. Did he impress? He was all right. I think he did okay. I'm certainly not going to get upset with the way he bowled at Lords, where I don't think any spinner would have had a particularly influential game. He gets to Trent Bridge next test. Hopefully he does play, because I'd like to see him play one more. Give Jack Leach a bit of rest. If Parkinson doesn't quite perform in the second test, you've got Leach to come back in after he's had tests. We can't mess about with head injuries, as you know, Rob, from your own personal experience. You just rest him. Just sit him to one side for the next test, I think. Give Parkinson one more. I think it's beneficial for everybody in that situation. It is for Leach to have that rest, but it is also for Parkinson. It's also important for the new coach, the new captain, and the new selectors, whoever they may be, Rob Key, whatever, to have a good look at Parkinson. It's come earlier than we expected. So, yeah, you know, he didn't set the world alight. He didn't, you know, in the Shane Warne test, there was so much nice stuff, wasn't there, in memorial for Shane Warne. We didn't see the ball of the century. We didn't see him announce himself onto the world stage like bowling Mike Gatting around his leg, from leg to 2 off. But it was a start. You know, it's something to build on, isn't it?
In a game where every wicket -1 fell to seamers. Ajaz Patel, who, let's not forget, took a 10-fer in one innings in India during the winter, bowled 2 overs.
Yes, he did.
Kane Williamson didn't trust him on that last day to try and get a few quick overs to try and get through to the new ball. So that's where spin fell in this game. Also,
22 off 2 overs. 22 off 2 overs was the whole game contribution with the ball from
exactly. That's it. And batting at 10. So similar roles. And Lords is the best pitch in the UK, Test match wise, to bowl seam. Seamers average 22 there, which is the best in the country. They take 87% of the wickets, and spinners average 44. And that's spinners averaging 44 with India, Australia being there in the last few years. So I want to see a bit more. I want to see him play. Trent Bridge offers a little bit more. Spinners average 30 at Trent Bridge and take 15% of the wickets. They do go around the park a little bit at Trent Bridge. I don't know why, but that's just how it is. England knock him off, Rich.
Yeah. I mean,
brilliant.
It was good, wasn't it? We spoke briefly about Alex Lees. You know, Ben Stokes spoke about how well he thought Alex Lees played. He got 20 off 32. It looked more fluid. Zach Crawley had already gone by this point, caught Southey off Jamieson. Ollie Pope's gone. Bolt was called bowled in for 10. So there's question marks, isn't there? That top three, until somebody does something spectacular, there's going to be question marks over that top three. But we are going to see them in the next test, as we keep saying. But none of those guys really got us underway, particularly. 3 for 46. At that point, you're thinking New Zealand are in the box seat. Johnny Bairstow's not really contributed much in this game either, apart from his 3 stunning catches, a run out, one or two other things. But he got 16 off 15 again, looked fluid. But you might be able to tell me a little bit more what you think about Johnny Bairstow bold dismissal yet again. And then Stokes came in, didn't he, and played pretty well. 54 for him off 110 before he tried to work one. It was almost like ramped, wasn't it? A little fiddle. We saw a fiddle from Folkes in the first innings, didn't we? And we saw a fiddle from Stokes in the second one. Not useful on this track, lads. But once he's gone, Root had to then step up, and he certainly did. He got it through to close. Ben Folkes, question marks always over him, it seems. People don't seem to see him as a batsman. He is. Bats at 5 for Surrey, people. Excellent batsman in his own right. He dug in, didn't he, before close of play yesterday? Him and Root got the tempo going, didn't he? He put his foot down a little bit, but set it up to only need that 60-odd seconds today just to finish it off. And they played superbly. To do it inside 15 overs, 60-odd runs that was required this morning. Root was exceptional. He got himself 100, 26 test 100, I believe, 10,000 test runs, the 14th player ever to get to 10,000 test runs. Unbelievable the way the world works, Rob. He's exactly the same age to the day as Alistair Cook, as the youngest player ever to find 10,000 test runs. Alistair Cook had that record when, a few years ago, whatever it might be, but, matching Alistair Cook. I just love the symmetry of those sort of statistics. And it just shows you what an absolute sensational player that we have in Joe Root. And we've got our right to believe that he is the best that's ever done it at the moment, or certainly the best. He could be the best at ever done. Let's slow the roll a little bit. But he's certainly at the moment probably the best in world cricket.
Best player in the world, best batsman in the world, best batsman in the world by a long way. Williamson's out of form, Smith's out of form, Coley's out of form for a couple of years now. 218 innings Root got there, 11 innings faster than Sir Alistair Cook, which is a fine effort. Not the fastest of all time. 195 innings is the fastest of all time, which was Sangakkara, Lara and Tendulkar. Ponting was 196. So incredible. Time on his side. It might play longer than Sir Alistair Cook as well. You never know. You never know what the next few years have got to have. Yeah. But at the moment, we're seeing the peak, whereas Alistair Cook's peak was a little bit younger in his career. So I am interested to see how far he can take this. Zach Crawley edged off again, Rich. He averages under 22 now to deliveries outside off stump in Test cricket, which is an interesting one. But the more interesting one is that out of players that play for England and edged the ball since the start of 2020, Zach Crawley has edged 8% of the deliveries he's faced in Test cricket. No English batter has edged more deliveries in that time.
That's a great stat. I've got no idea how to compare that. I don't know what, for example, Joe Root would be. But that's, there's just huge question marks at the top of the order, isn't there? Before we delve too much into those, I just want to quickly round off with Ben Folkes. I thought he played really, really well today. And I wanted Joe Root to get to his 100. I wanted to see 10,000 test runs Joe Root. And I wanted, obviously, to see England win. But I really, really wanted to see Ben Folkes finish this game unbeaten, get through the end of the game. Would have been lovely for him to get a 50, but he finished on 32 not out. And I just think he looks a good player. I think he's a good keeper, a good player, and I want to see him get a run. He deserves a run in this Test match team. For too long, we've sort of disrespected these players that we perceive to be the best keepers, and we don't give them the respect they deserve with the bat. I've got being whatever the phrase may be for Chris Reed. all those years ago, he was a better batsman than people gave him credit for. People didn't see him as much as we did and others. And he just wasn't handled correctly. He was a very, very good batsman, and he scored ridiculous thousands of runs in first-class cricket. And folks, he's being tarnished a little bit. He's seen as the better keeper, but I don't think people quite realise how good a batsman he is. And I think he just deserves that run of games, and the confidence will come with it. And I think we'll see him do really well as he takes it through. So I was really, really pleased to see him be there at the end as well.
That's a fair point. England don't win the game without him, essentially. You end up in a position where you're going to collapse. I think there's one thing else that kind of needs pointing out here. Folks was great. Batted well last night. And today, he actually aided Root, not just in staying at the crease, but scoring enough runs at a decent rate. He was playing some beautiful straight drives, like, sorry, coughs, looking really, really nice. New Zealand changed the ball, and this is hugely important. The ball was swinging, according to CricViz, it was swinging 1.5 degrees. The ball had gone soft. They changed it, and when the ball came back, it swung 0.4 degrees. And you could see it on TV. The ball was not moving at all. So for all those people going, they're changing the ball all the time, it's not fair, it's not fair. Actually, it worked against them here, completely against them.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't work, does it? That was quite funny, wasn't it? And then they were desperate to try and get it changed again, which is quite amusing. It is the way it goes, isn't it? Hey, I've got a cat in the background if anyone's interested.
Yeah.
What's going on? Something I wanted to mention as well, which we didn't, and it was so important that folks did see it through, not just for him and his personal achievement, but it was also for the fact that if he'd have got himself out, we then opened up this England, Matty Potts, Stuart Broad, James Anderson, and Matt Parkinson. In the nicest, politest sense in the world, that's probably 4 number 10s, 4 number 10 and 11s. It may be, if we're being generous, maybe there's a 9, 10, 11 out of there, but they're not the finest players in the world. And I'm really pleased that England went with this, because I've been sick and tired of it for so many years that we've ended up picking bowlers because they can bat a bit, rather than trying to pick the best 4 bowlers that can then go and take 20 wickets and win a test match. We've been vindicated in this test, haven't we? That we did pick the best 4 bowlers. Their performances have proven. Well, Jack Leach, maybe we didn't, forget about the spinner. But the 3 seamers we picked, and none of them were a number 8 batsman. But we've still won a test match. We did all right. It's not their job to go and score runs to win as a game. It's about time the top 6 and 7 scored the runs, and that's where the question marks and issues need to be. We're asking Alex Lees, Zach Crawley, Ollie Pope, Johnny Bairstow, and folks. He's a new player coming in the team. They're the guys that should be scoring the runs. Bowlers do their job. They did their job. They took 20 wickets.
Yeah, you do that. You just end up with a watered down bowling unit. Which we've unfortunately seen time and time again. So you're right, it does. And there was a time I was looking at it and I went, oh, that's a long tail. And then I had to stop myself and come back to the point you've just made and go, no, Bobby, this is the right thing to do. You're picking a team to win a game of Test cricket, not a game that's just going to be in a game of Test cricket. So I was really impressed. I come away from the game, mate. We've got holes, and I think I put it in the tweet that I sent out. I said, England have won a game of Test cricket. Root is elite. Jimmy and Brody are back. We've got holes all over the batting lineup, but I don't care. We've won a game of cricket. It's been 290 odd days since we've done it. We've had really rough times over the winter, losing to the West Indies, losing to Australia. We're still losing to India, which is still going on after a year. It's just really good to see. But I think where we're going by the end of this series, Lees, Crawley, Pope all have to have scored runs. Otherwise, there will be changes. And unfortunately, it's all 3 of them at the moment. I can't imagine England making all 3 changes. They're going to back some horse in the race. And Johnny Bairstow, 2 centuries in his last 5 Test matches, has got a lot of pressure coming on him. A thing I like about Bairstow, a lot of fire. Like when he was batting against Kyle Jamieson on the end of day 3, Kyle Jamieson, one of the nicest guys in the world, big massive smile on his face, little dimples on his face, couldn't do anything wrong. Bairstow smashed him for 4. And then he played and missed, and Jamieson gave him a little smile, and Johnny Bairstow marched 22 yards down the pitch having some words with him. I couldn't see what they were saying, but having some words with him, and then next ball, Jamieson got one to nip back in and cleaned him off. It was absolutely brilliant Test cricket, but it's what I want to see out of Bairstow. Bairstow is a real good, fiery sort of character. I want to see him pumped up, and I did see him pumped up. And, it's incredible. A year ago that England got set that target by Kane Williamson and just did nothing. Just did nothing. Dom
Not
Sibley batted
interested.
7 days for 6.
It was a Dom Sibley net, wasn't it? That's all the management seemed to care about, was trying to get Sibley into form. But we're not going to look back on that.
And this was different here because England looked at it. I love this. England looked at it and said, if we win this game, we've got to do it before the new ball. And that's what it came down to. What do we have to go at? They went in 3.5 and over on day 3 and day 4 and won the game. It's absolutely brilliant, Rich. What changes do you make if you're England for the second
test? It's a good question. Yeah, I mean, it was just quickly on the point you just made. Root was saying, they were asking the question about whether or not they wanted to kind of kick on before that new ball. And they said, was that too far ahead? And he was like, that's too far ahead. But I think there's something in that, especially with the tail. I think if they'd have opened it up and a wicket had fallen, I think it could have been a bang, bang, bang and a New Zealand victory, couldn't it, if they got to the new ball? So I'm really impressed. Positive intent, we spoke about, didn't we? That's what the new setup talks about. And it's not just about smacking the ball. It's about doing everything you do positively. So I was really pleased with that. I don't think England's going to do anything different next test. I think if Leach is fit, I think there's a question of whether they want to play Jack Leach. Like I've already said, I think it'd be the sensible decision is to sit him, rest him. He's available for the third test then and see how you go. Leave it as is. I would probably change things, but that's because it's me. I want to see Harry Brook, and I'm not convinced by the way things are. I'd probably have Joe Root at number 3, but they're not going to make wholesale changes after they've just won a test match, and Joe Root at number 4 is an unbeaten 115 to win the test match and man of the match. So I don't think England will do anything different. I'm chuffed to bits with Matty Potts. He's averaging 9.71 so far in his test career, Rob. Can he keep that going? That's what I want to know. So really, the question then comes across to New Zealand. Colin, as we say, the big man, de Grandhomme, he's out for the next test and for the series. Henry Nicholls missed the first game with injury. Do they just do a straight swap and get in Nicholls in the top 6 and move Blundell down to 7? Or is there somebody else that can replace what de Grandhomme gives New Zealand?
Mate, I'm looking at this squad, and it's a different squad to the first test, to the second and third test for the Black Caps. There's a heavily reduced squad. The first one was inflated with IPL and stuff like that. You've got Tim Southey. You've got Henry Nicholls, who hopefully will be fit, that can come in. You've got Cam Fletcher, wicket keeper. Not convinced he's going to be a test match batsman, but they're pretty much the only changes you've got. The batting's so weak, you have to replace him with a batter in this lineup. You can't just go, you know what, I'm going to bring in Neil Wagner and we're going to have a different sort of lineup. Trent Bridge does offer a little bit more for the spinners. If they were going to not go with Ajaz Patel, this would have been the test to do it. So I think the likely decision is that Henry Nicholls comes back in, excellent player, averages over 40 in test match cricket, been brilliant over the last few years. I think he scored 100 against South Africa in the New Zealand summer as well. I could be slightly wrong on that, but I think that's the change that you see. But, you know, for the fanfare that de Grandhomme gets, he averages 40 in test match cricket, and he averages about 30 with the ball. He is a genuine international test match all-rounder. He might not look like one, or he might not appear to play like one, but he plays in his own mould, and I really like that. And I love watching him play. And even with the ball, he just picks up wickets. He just gets people out, bowling 75 mile an hour, but he knows his role, and he does it superbly. So he's going to be a big miss. Yeah,
there's a place for that bowling those sort of paces, though, isn't it? If you are the fourth seamer, if you are the fifth bowler. Daryl Mitchell is an all-rounder. He's took 90-odd wickets in first-class cricket. He's only got a couple of wickets so far. Do we see him put forward a little bit more? Maybe him and Blundell drop down the order one each, and Nicholls obviously comes in ahead of those. Do we then see Mitchell given an opportunity as that fifth bowler to maybe try and break things up a little bit?
That's
it's an opportunity for him.
That's what I'd probably do. I'll drop them down. Nicholls will come back in, bat 5. I'm still not convinced 4's Conway's best point. I think when you've got a guy,
feel right.
He opened the batting in Plunket Shield cricket forever, or batted it opened or batted at 3. What I'd probably like is to see him up the order, but Will Young's probably got enough in the tank to get a few more tests at the moment. Why not? He's done pretty well in the games he's played. Kane Williamson maybe drop down to 4. That would be an interesting decision and get Conway up there earlier. But they've definitely, out of both teams, the biggest worry is in the New Zealand camp.
Yeah. It's funny, though, isn't it? Because both bowling attacks look in pretty good shape. Spinners, neither spinner got much work. all-rounders. I wouldn't say question marks on both teams. Obviously, de Grandhomme's out. We don't know what's going to happen in that position if they do look at Mitchell in that replacement. Stokes is getting back, obviously batting. We know, when he's come back after his injury in first class for Durham, he's batted well. He's scored runs, scored some explosive runs as well. That sounds worse than what I meant. His bowling's okay, isn't he? He's not quite back to full fights and fitness. It doesn't seem, or right rhythm yet. But he certainly is back. But it is that batting on both sides, isn't it? You've got some absolute locks on both sides, but you've also got some huge holes and question marks, which we won't have any answers for yet. We need to see how it goes at Trent Bridge. Starting this coming week, isn't it? I think it's starting Thursday at Trent Bridge, and then we're on to Headingley, I believe, for the third test. But obviously, I'm looking forward to a nice local test match next weekend. I don't like they're the changes. I don't see anything else happening. I think it's really, really bad that we've not manipulated a way to get Harry Brook in. I know some people have said give Bairstow the gloves and that's how you get Brook in. I don't think that's fair on folks. I think it should have been probably Root at 3 and then you put in Brook at 4, unless you put Bairstow at 4 and then Brook comes in at 5. That's for me how it should have been. It's not. It wasn't, and it's not going to be for this test, I don't believe. So we wait and see whether there will be any changes. But I think it's going to be the third test before we see any changes. But I'm really pleased with how that went. I'm really pleased that we've seen a positive brand of cricket. It's too early to say why. Was it Stokes? Is it McCullum influence? Is it anything else, or is it just one of those things that we've just got back to England more? Conditions we know, and players have just got in the stride. They've had a rest. They're back home and they're ready to go again. We don't know.
I thought one thing that was interesting, every time it panned to McCullum on the Lord's balcony, he looked freezing cold, even though it's winter, which is my wife's Kiwi, and she says the same thing. It's cold all year round in England. He looked really, really cold. And he's from Dunedin, so he should be used to the cold, but he looked freezing. Yeah. Also, one side of him, Ollie Pope, also the other side of him, Zach Crawley. The whole time England were batting and those two weren't batting, which was most of the time, they were sat next to him, talking to him the whole time. I like that.
Yeah. He's been brought in, hasn't he? He's not going to coach technique. Those players have got good enough techniques if they replicate and do it consistently. It's about getting their mindset. It's about getting them in the right setup in order to succeed in Test cricket. They've got the ability. They just need to go and do it consistently. We know Crawley can do it. We're not quite sure with Pope yet, but we know that Pope is so good in first class cricket. So hopefully McCullum can unlock something. That's why they brought him in. He's an X factor as a coach, isn't he? So, but yeah, great. We're up and running, Rob. Ben Stokes has got his first win in his first Test match. Joe Root has repaid, as he said, the favour. Ben Stokes won Joe Root plenty of games of cricket, so Joe Root wanted to win, and he wants to win a lot more for Ben Stokes as the captain. So it's a really, really positive start for England. We roll on to Trent Bridge. We're looking forward to it. There's a lot of other cricket in the background at the moment, isn't there? Obviously, like you said, Vitality Blast, etc. IPL's just wrapped up. Exciting win for one of the new franchises there, I believe. You might be able to tell me more than that. But hey, cricket's all good.
Cricket's there. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. We'll leave you with this one stat. This is the first time since 1888 that England have dismissed the top 4 in both innings of a Test match for less than 15. Subsequently, straight after, they added 180 runs for the next wicket. So thank you so much for listening, guys. Have a great weekend. We'll see you ready for the test on Thursday.